Hi guys, welcome to today's Legal 101. Being a Friday, it's on constitutional and human rights law. What we're talking about today is prisoners' rights to attend funerals and burials of their loved ones. Now, in this particular case, we are discussing a judgment that was delivered by Justice Mugambi this year. And what happened was that a convicted criminal sued the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government, the Kenya Prison Service, and the Office of the Attorney General. And his claim was as follows: that his mother passed away in 2021, that he was not allowed to leave the prisons to condole with his family and bid his mother farewell, that prisoners could not attend their loved ones' funerals, and even see them on their deathbeds, even though neither the Constitution nor the Prisons Act forbade it. That the problem was that there was simply no mechanism, no rules, no guidelines for prisons or both institutions on this issue, even though there are rules for prisoners to visit banks and hospitals as appropriate. That being denied the opportunity to say goodbye to his mother was a violation of his right to human dignity and his freedom from discrimination, all rights that he as a prisoner still enjoys as provided under Article 51 of the Constitution, despite his being detained. That under Rule 70 of the United Nations Standard Minimum Rules for the treatment of prisoners, popularly known as the Nelson Mandela Rules, the prison administration is required to inform a prisoner at once of the serious illness or the death of a near relative, and whenever circumstances allow, the prisoner is authorized to go either alone or under escort to the bedside of the said relative, or to attend their funeral when they pass away. So he said he wanted damages for breach of his rights, and he wanted that the prisons be directed to escort him to his mother's grave to pray, to lay a wreath of flowers, and pay his last respect. So, of course, the respondents put in their defense, and they said there is no constitutional right for prisoners to attend funerals. That allowing prisoners unrestricted access to attend funerals could disrupt the operations of correctional facilities and could put the general public at risk. They said there could be alternative means for participation and emotional support, which would include communication with family members, a memorial service within the correctional facility, and provision of counseling services. They also said that allowing certain prisoners to attend funerals and denying others that chance could create an appearance of preferential treatment. And they also said, what about the rights of the victims of the crimes of these convicted criminals? And lastly, they said correctional facilities face various challenges, including limited budgets, overcrowding, and staffing constraints, and therefore this issue was not a priority. So this is what the court said. That number one, persons who are detained enjoy all rights as other human beings do. And under Article 24 of the Constitution, any restrictions to enjoyment of a human right must be reasonable and justifiable. The court said under Article 51 of the Constitution, the Parliament was required to create rules and regulations to ensure prisoners are treated humanely and with dignity. And to that effect, they enacted the Persons Deprived of Liberty Act in 2014. And that act includes various rights, such as the right to be visited and the right to family days. The court observed that under Section 30, subsection 2H of this act, the CS Interior is supposed to make regulations to provide for instances when a person deprived of liberty may be allowed to leave the institution. But as of the date of this judgment, or at the date of institution of these proceedings, there are no such regulations. The court further observed that the Nelson Mandela rules may not be legally binding to Kenyan courts, but they are a universally accepted standard that Kenya cannot afford to be oblivious to. The court made comparisons to jurisdictions such as India and Poland, where prisoners are allowed to leave the prisons to condole with their families. He observed that the death of a close relative is one of the most difficult emotional experiences, and actually said that while incarceration imposes retribution, punishment, and deterrent, it is also aimed at rehabilitation. And these same convicted criminals are supposed to be reintegrated back to society. And so he said that temporary permissions for the prisoners to leave the premises is an affirmation that prisoners remain members of the community to which they anticipate to return. The court said that once the CS develops the regulations, all the concerns raised by the respondents would have to be dealt with, which could include looking at justifications for letting a prisoner go. The factors to be considered would be whether the prisoner is a violent person, whether they have attempted to escape before, whether there are resources for facilitating this prisoner's requests, whether the prisoner's family is able to cater for the expenses, how long the prisoner will be away from the premises, and if it takes more than a day, where will they actually sleep? And lastly, whether the funeral will take place in the presence of the victims of the crimes of the prisoner and what that could do to them. And so the court also observed that prisons are actually constrained in terms of financial resources. So this regulation will actually have to be very detailed, and because prisoners cannot just be allowed to leave the prisons willy-nilly. And the court further observed that there being no procedural framework, the prisons could not have been said to have violated the prisoner's rights, as was claimed in this case. So the court said that there is no award for general damages, but all detainees have a right to attend the funerals and burials of their close family members, except where there are compelling reasons to decline that permission. And he directed that the CS formulate the relevant regulations within 6 months of delivery of the judgment. It was delivered in February of this year. I don't know how you feel about this judgment, or about the rights of prisoners in general, considering the atrocious things one would have to do to be convicted. So I don't know how you feel about it. You can let me know in the comment section. Okay, sawa sawa, bye. See you on Monday.